Today's show is brought to you by 3C. Comprehensive Cannabis Consulting helps clients design, build, and optimize their cannabis business from initial assessment and planning through operationalization and ongoing management. To learn more about how their services are tailored to meet the unique goals and objectives of each of their clients, go to 3ccannabis.com. And for a limited time, 3C is giving all MJBulls listeners an additional 10% off their fees just for mentioning that you heard it on the show. Go to 3ccannabis.com.
Yeah, they're by far the most important people in the industry, in my opinion. They really make it run. And they're the people who are going to make sure that we see those 40% annual growth rates that everybody's predicting. That's not going to be the same group of people who are consuming cannabis, consuming 40% more cannabis every year. That's new cannabis consumers coming in, getting educated by bud tenders at the front lines every single day. So the industry really relies on those people.
From Bumminett Media, it's the MJBulls Podcast, a show about raising cannabis capital. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, how these two Harvard-educated entrepreneurs left their career in finance to develop a way to improve the dispensary purchasing experience. Today on the Raising Cannabis Capital series, we are joined by Andrew Duffy, who's the CEO and co-founder of Best & Grow. Andrew, welcome to the MJBulls Podcast.
Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Well, I have to say, Best & Grow has all the right pedigree. Between you and your partner, you're both Harvard grads, which is unique in itself. Out of college, you worked in finance in New York, but then up and moved to Boulder and got involved with Canopy Boulder's accelerator program. Past that, I mean, if you guys were an NFL football team, you'd be a first-round pick.
I
got to ask you this. Yeah. Out of all the industries that you guys could have went out and conquered, how did you decide on cannabis?
Absolutely. So there are a couple different reasons for that. I'd say the first one was we saw cannabis as a place where we could really make an impact as young entrepreneurs who didn't really have the type of experience that necessarily traditional industries respect and really need you to have to be someone who makes an impact from day one. So we saw it as a huge open space opportunity where not only could we change something, but we could also change something for good. We could do something that would be improving people's lives by not only helping the industry to grow and thrive and create as many jobs as it's created, but also helping people get access to the medicine that they so desperately need, as well as the fun and recreational activities that they get from cannabis as well. So we really embraced sort of what the cannabis industry means for both the business opportunity and the people who are experiencing it as end consumers.
Well, I think you're like everyone else or a lot of other people that are in this industry. You see the opportunity and it's nothing but green lights. Tell us a little bit about Best & Grow. What does it do? And how did where did you get the idea?
So what we saw in the cannabis market when we were first learning about it, starting to get our heads around it, was an extreme dearth of tools to help manage the most important people in the entire industry. And that's bud tenders, the point of sale employee. A fact we like to dig up from time to time is that 92% of consumers that walk into a dispensary take the exact recommendation of the bud tender when they're purchasing their products.
That's crazy.
It's massive. It's crazy. There's really no other industry where that type of influence exists in one person's hands. And there are a couple of reasons why cannabis is like that. Consumer education is not where it is in other industries. They need to learn. But it's also a very complicated product with a wide range of experiences that it can elicit in its users. So it's extremely important that that person at the point of sale is able to guide people on those journeys. So those influencers, those bud tenders are not just the face of these cannabis businesses, they are these cannabis businesses. And that matters for two people. That matters for the dispensary, who has to manage that influence and ensure that their customers have a great experience. But it also matters for brands who have to get their products into the hands of customers when they don't have the power to advertise in traditional ways that traditional consumer packaged goods can. So when we saw that dislocation and we realized that not only are these people extremely influential, but they're not necessarily being managed in a way that maximizes that influence and helps to improve the customer experience as well as the dispensary's bottom line, we thought there's a way we can make a tool for this. We went in there, we talked to some dispensary owners, we figured out that they were doing things like scheduling, like task management, like team communication either manually or by using 10 different software platforms. And so it was really simple fix for us to go in and say, hey, we're going to digitize some of these processes that you're doing manually, and we're going to consolidate processes that you're doing across a bunch of different software tools. So for the dispensary, we really just simplify everything and put it into one web mobile platform that allows them to seamlessly manage every person in their organization, track their progress, track their abilities, and improve their performance through time. And then because we've done that, we're able to create this ecosystem of bud tenders who we can give access to brand materials and information that brands are desperate to have in front of them. So we've really created a way to not only allow dispensaries to manage their people better, but connect them with the brands who so desperately want the feedback of these bud tenders who are recommending their products every day and who need to know a lot about those products to be effective shepherds of the consumer experience.
Yeah, and I suspect the brands really appreciate that feedback that they're getting right from the ground level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are kind of two fun facts there. Brands, Colorado at least, spend about 80% of their marketing budgets trying to access bud tenders. All of their efforts are trying to get at this one person who can affect the purchasing choices of 100 people a day, of 200 people a day. So that's a really powerful and leverageable marketing tool for those brands. But it's also important for R&D. They have to understand who it is that's selling their products and what attributes of those products make those people happy and make them likely to recommend them. So being able to push and pull information between those two groups creates so much value for the supply chain because it makes products better and it makes products that consumers are more likely to purchase and enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if every customer that walked up to a bartender said, "What should I have today?"
Exactly.
And the bartender says, "I think you need a gin and tonic. I think you need a Shirley Temple. I think you need a martini." Like, okay, that's what I'll take. That's not how it is.
Exactly.
Think about it. This is the only place where more than 9 out of 10 people would completely rely on the person behind the counter to make that decision for them. That is crazy stat. It's crazy.
Totally. And multiply that by the fact that any consumer that walks into a bar is going to have pretty much the same experience when they consume alcohol. But when you walk into a cannabis dispensary, you can have a crazy range of experiences from euphoria to anxiety to lethargy to energy. So it's an even more important process for them to manage.
It is overwhelming. Does your product, is it a POS or does it sort of an overlay to the POS?
Yeah, so it's a complementary system to the POS. The point of sale is really managing those transactions, but what we do is we provide a separate application that can not only help them to manage their teams and communicate across their teams, but also can plug into the POS, meaning we can pull out sales data from your POS and give you as a manager a much better understanding of which bud tenders are selling what and how does that relate to the ways that I've trained them or how they've been performing in their job in the past. And so it gives managers a much better view into the data that they already have with respect to the actual day-to-day actionable changes they can make in their dispensary. So if they see that their bud tenders are favoring a particular type of product and as a result are missing some of their higher margin products, maybe that means they need to educate those bud tenders about the product mix because they're worried about giving recommendations to customers that they don't understand. Being able to pull out stuff like that and act on it is something that our customers really, really love.
Well, I'm sure that to think about all the data that you have with this information. I mean, consolidate that across the board from all the dispensaries. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother opportunity right there. I want to take a minute to tell everyone about an exciting free opportunity that one of our former guests, Good Harvest Company, is offering retail operators and cannabis brand managers in the adult use market. Good Harvest Company is preparing to launch their platform, which uses customers' buying and shopping behaviors to help brands effectively reach their customers. And for a limited time, Good Harvest Company will offer participating companies free access to their data in return for their feedback. To learn more, go to goodharvest.co. Well, you've raised a bunch of money already. I know you were oversubscribed on your first round. Tell me what's going on now. Are you raising money again?
Yeah, absolutely. So we oversubscribed our first round out of Cannabis Accelerator. We won the best pitch prize at the ArcDo Vancouver conference, which was really great for us, got us some visibility and really helped to get the idea out there and the product out there. And then we're ultimately raising another round. We're actually opening it at the end of February. And that's going to be a growth capital round that we're using to expand the product market fit and the SaaS sales processes that we've been honing in Colorado over the past year into a couple of other areas, not only East Coast and West Coast expansions into a couple of different states, but also into Canada, where we've secured some pretty exciting partners that are going to help us leverage our platform and our tool into a lot of different territories up there and dispensaries up there.
Just listening to, I just know that a lot of our listeners right now are thinking, how can I get a hold of this guy and talk to you about this before you get oversubscribed again? So what would be the process if somebody wants to talk to you about this?
You can reach me directly at andrew@bestandgrow.io. I love getting mail. I love talking to people. I find that investors are some of the most intelligent people that I speak to in terms of their ability to see the trends in the market and give us information that matters even more than capital sometimes. So I love having those conversations no matter what. And then you can also find more information on our website, bestandgrow.io. Anybody who's interested, please get a hold of me.
We'll also have all of Andrew Duffy's information on the MJBulls website, and Best and Grow's email address and everything else will be on the MJBulls website. So, Andrew, thanks for being on the MJBulls podcast today. You're really at the beginning of this. This is going to explode for you guys.
It's been so exciting. In just a year, we've honestly seen a pretty insane amount of growth, and it's happening way faster than we ever could have expected. Part of that is the cannabis industry is booming, and part of that is that we feel like we've really found a product that fits the market where it's at and what it needs to have. So we're super excited, and of course are so excited to have been on the podcast. Really appreciate you having us on.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I know bud tenders really appreciate what you're doing. This is making their lives a lot easier and finally recognizing them for the value that they bring to this process. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, they're by far the most important people in the industry, in my opinion. They really make it run. And they're the people who are going to make sure that we see those 40% annual growth rates that everybody's predicting. That's not going to be the same group of people who are consuming cannabis, consuming 40% more cannabis every year. That's new cannabis consumers coming in, getting educated by bud tenders at the front lines every single day. So the industry really relies on those people. You know, the rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can help bud tenders to be better at their jobs, then everybody's going to succeed.
Good luck with this.
Thanks so much, Dan. Good luck to you as well.
Let me take a second to thank Trevitt Hill for sponsoring today's show. Cannabis investors expect big returns from the companies that they invest in. Unfortunately, not all cannabis investments succeed. Trevitt Hill's management team works with investors to help turn around, or in some cases purchase, their underperforming portfolio companies. To learn more, go to trevitthill.com. Thanks for listening to the MJBulls Podcast. To learn more about today's guest or to become a guest, visit our website at MJBulls.com. Today's show was produced by Bumminit Media with original music composed by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the MJBulls Podcast.